Picard's greatest Star Trek, The Next Generation episode changed Jean-Luc for the better. The Inner Light remains one of Captain Jean-Luc Picard's, Patrick Stewart, greatest Star Trek, The Next Generation stories. From the best of both worlds to Lower Decks, several iconic TNG episodes continue to reverberate throughout the Star Trek timeline. Not only do these episodes contain plot elements that remain relevant in the franchise today, but they also affect the USS Enterprise D's main characters in often profound ways. The Inner Light, for example, tells an unconventional Star Trek story in which Captain Picard lives an entire life in a matter of minutes. In Star Trek, The Next Generation Season 5, Episode 25, The Inner Light, an energy beam from an alien probe renders Captain Picard unconscious. While the crew of the USS Enterprise D tries to figure out how to wake their captain, Picard experiences a lifetime of 40 years living on an alien planet as a man named Kamen. The Enterprise crew eventually learns that the civilization that launched the probe was destroyed 1,000 years ago when their sun went nova. Prior to their destruction, this society incorporated their memories into the probe to prevent their civilization from being lost to history. As captain of the Starship Enterprise, Jean-Luc Picard had devoted his life to Starfleet and had little time or desire to settle down and start a family. The Inner Light allowed Picard to experience life as a family man without physically leaving the Enterprise. Picard is initially disoriented upon waking up as Kamen, but his wife, Margot Rose, and his best friend, Richard Reel, help him settle into his new life. As Kamen, Picard raises children with Aline, learns to play the flute, and spends time observing the stars through his telescope. Kamen notices that the sun above his planet is causing a severe drought and will eventually destroy all life on the planet, but his people do not have the technology to stop it. Kamen eventually outlives his wife and best friend and gets to know his grandchildren. One day, his adult children show him the launch of the rocket containing the probe that will eventually find Picard. Soon after this, Picard wakes up back on the Enterprise to find that only 25 minutes have passed. Inside the probe, he finds Kamen's flute, which he now knows how to play. The Inner Light opens like any other episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation. While exploring the galaxy, the crew encounters a strange alien probe that causes a problem they have to solve. But The Inner Light takes the story in a different direction, shifting the focus to an entirely new planet and cast of characters. With Picard as the viewer's anchor, The Inner Light tells a beautiful, fully realized story in a short amount of time. It's a simple and quiet story, and that is part of the reason why it works so well. Patrick Stewart delivers an incredible and nuanced performance, truly selling the realism of Picard's life as Kamen. It may have only felt like 25 minutes for the rest of the crew, but it was a very real lifetime for Picard. In the closing scene of the episode, Picard stands alone in his dark quarters, playing a melody on the Resican flute, and the Enterprise captain has never seemed so lonely. With its beautifully bittersweet story, The Inner Light remains one of Star Trek's greatest accomplishments and a solid episode of television all around. Throughout 7 seasons of Star Trek, The Next Generation, TNG, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, portrayed by the iconic Sir Patrick Stewart, was a character known for his strength of leadership, intellectual rigor, and unwavering moral compass. However, his growth as a character did not remain static, and some episodes profoundly shaped him. Perhaps no episode did more to change Jean-Luc Picard for the better than The Inner Light, a standout in TNG's rich catalog. First airing in 1992 as part of Season 5, The Inner Light stands as one of the most emotionally powerful and transformative episodes for Picard. It tells the story of how the captain, after being struck unconscious by a mysterious probe, lives an entire lifetime on an alien planet called Catan. This experience profoundly alters Picard, offering him a rare glimpse into a life he never would have had as the captain of a starship, a life filled with love, family, and the simple joys of daily existence. Through this episode, Picard became more human, more compassionate, and more deeply connected to the emotional spectrum of life that he often kept at a distance due to the demands of command. The premise of The Inner Light, the story begins when the Enterprise encounters a probe from a long-dead alien civilization. Upon scanning it, Picard falls unconscious and finds himself on Catan, a planet facing environmental collapse. He awakens in a new identity, that of a man named Kamen, and is surrounded by people who insist he is their husband, father, and friend. Despite his initial resistance and confusion, Picard comes to accept his new life as Kamen, slowly forgetting his past as the captain of the Enterprise. Over the course of the episode, Picard lives out Kamen's life, experiencing decades on Catan. He raises a family, becomes a respected member of the community, and watches as his planet faces extinction due to its failing ecosystem. The people of Catan, knowing their world would be lost, designed the probe to preserve their culture through one person's memories, those of Picard as Kamen. When Picard finally returns to consciousness on the bridge of the Enterprise, only 25 minutes have passed in reality, but he has lived a full lifetime in his mind. How the inner light changed Picard. Before the inner light, Picard had often been portrayed as somewhat emotionally reserved. As the captain of a starship, he was duty-bound to maintain a sense of detachment from personal relationships to keep his command impartial and focused. Unlike his first officer, William Riker, or the more emotionally driven crew members like Deanna Troi or Beverly Crusher, Picard frequently relied on logic and intellect to navigate difficult situations. His leadership was defined by moral certainty, sharp reasoning, and decisiveness, but he often avoided close personal connections that might compromise his judgment. The experience on Catan gave Picard something he had long sacrificed in his career, a personal life. In Kamen's identity, he forged deep connections with his wife, Elaine, and their children. He became part of a community, lived through the rhythms of domestic life, and discovered the profound value in simple pleasures like gardening, playing music, and spending time with loved ones. Picard had been presented with an alternative path, one where his responsibilities were not to a starship or starfleet, but to family, friends, and a home. This intimate, personal existence was something Picard had never allowed himself to fully experience as the captain of the Enterprise. By the time he wakes from his life as Kamen, he is no longer the same man who fell unconscious. The experience on Catan forced Picard to confront his emotional depth and vulnerability in a way his role as captain rarely allowed. He learned firsthand the emotional cost of loss, love, and time, lessons that could not be gleaned from the bridge of a starship. Lasting impact on Picard. When Picard returns to his life on the Enterprise, it is clear that his time as Kamen has left a lasting mark on him. He is more introspective, more in tune with the emotional nuances of those around him. His newfound depth is perhaps most symbolized by the Resican flute he keeps as a memento from his life as Kamen. Picard's quiet moments playing the flute in later episodes serve as a poignant reminder of the lifetime of experiences he carries with him, a man now marked by the duality of his existence. In episodes following the inner light, we see subtle changes in Picard's approach to his relationships. His connection to his crew, particularly those he is closest to like Riker, Troi, and Crusher, deepens. He becomes more willing to open himself to moments of vulnerability, and while he never completely sheds his professional armor, there is a warmth and humanity to Picard that wasn't as apparent before. This episode also foreshadows the more personal journey Picard embarks on in the later series Star Trek, Picard. His time as Kamen left him with an understanding that there is more to life than duty, and it catalyzed his eventual decision to step away from Starfleet. He could no longer ignore the importance of personal relationships, love, and the unspoken longing for connection he had often suppressed.